Signore e signori, benvenuti a Visio.Next Trends. Diamo il benvenuto alla Master of Ceremony, Vice President, Chief Style Officer, Curator di Mayfair Rocks. Nominata nel 2002 gioielliere e rivenditore dell'anno, Lauren, la più giovane nella Hall of Fame del National Jeweler, premiata nel 2003 come Key to Italy da ICE e gioielliere dell'anno per il suo lavoro con designer e marchi italiani. Sempre in prima fila alle sfilate, soprannominata da Moda Operandi The Real Buyer. Si dice che abbia la più grande collezione privata di Del Poso sul pianeta. Lauren è sempre la prima a scoprire nuovi talenti. Rappresenta la quarta generazione alla guida di Mayfair, l'azienda di famiglia che ha festeggiato il suo 60° anniversario nel 2016. Signore e signori, Lauren Kalczynski Levinson.
I guess I'm going to start. Welcome, good morning, buongiorno. Thank you for coming to this morning's Trend Talk, Visio.Next Trends at VICENZAORO September. You all look fantastic. I'm going to invite our esteemed panel up to the stage. It's a very big morning. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful show. We have with us this morning Jamie Freed from Farfetch. Jamie, come on up. We have Paola De Luca, who is no stranger to VICENZAORO. Come on up. Marco Carne, hello. We have Alessia Crivelli. And we have Alessio Boschi. We have it's an Alessia and Alessio kind of morning, so I got a little confused. I'm sorry. So here is our panel. We have a lot to cover this morning. We're going to talk about all of the influences going on in the market and how we get influenced. And hopefully we can pressure you into some really cool influences this morning. Trend spotting, trend watching, how trends become trendy. And I hope you're ready to join us. Okay, so actually yesterday was a really big day for our first panelist. Jamie is the Vice President of Global Marketing at Farfetch, and Farfetch she IPO'd, it sounds a little dirty, but they IPO'd yesterday and ended up being worth, $8 billion on the stock exchange. And they're going to go all over VICENZAORO. It's the first time.
Yes.
And maybe it's the first time you've heard of Farfetch, but they can actually explain how to bring jewelry, fine jewelry, fun jewelry, to the internet, and also be brick and mortar at the same time. So I think it might be scary for some of you, but Jamie is not a scary person, so I'm gonna let her explain it without a question, and then I'll ask a question. So go ahead, Jamie.
Thanks, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Yes, yesterday was a really big day for us at Farfetch, but I think also for e-commerce and for fashion and technology at the same time. And I think one of the most exciting things for us is how we are expanding not just the breadth and depth of our assortment across every category in luxury fashion, which now for us includes fine jewelry, fashion jewelry, and timepieces, but also how we are able to connect a global, very high value luxury consumer base with brands and boutiques from all over the world. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do, both for people in the trade as well as for a very discerning consumer. And I think a lot of our customers really come to us for the curation that we can provide them. And I think for us too, the amount of growth that we're seeing just in the shift from consumers, how they are now starting to become a lot more comfortable with shopping online, are really thinking about what an omni-channel journey should look like. And so it could mean that Farfetch is providing a very curated and compelling element of discovery for smaller emerging brands, as well as very well-known named brands that consumers already know, and they come to us for the things that they know that they're looking for, and while they're on our website wind up discovering things that they didn't know that they needed or didn't know that they would love, and they become captivated by new brands or the curation from new boutiques. And I think that what we've done over the past 10 years is build a global consumer base of over 1 million customers who come to our site more often than they do Vogue.com today. And we then take, through the power of our amazing boutique curators, a lot of whom are based here in Italy, as well as our brands, many of whom are based here in Italy, and give them a global consumer base where we help them extend their front doors beyond just Italian borders and really introduce them to a very savvy, well-connected consumer. And so when you have your items, whether it's on Farfetch.com or whether it's on another multi-brand e-commerce platform, what it does is it really opens you and your brand to the world.
So what you're saying is that Crivelli, for example, could sell directly through Farfetch and then could also sell Crivelli through Mayfair at Farfetch?
Correct.
And the consumer would get the same platform through Farfetch, so it would look exactly the same, and it wouldn't be like, oh, it looks better on Mayfair's site versus Crivelli, so I'm going to go through there.
Exactly.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah, it is. And I think for the brands and for the boutiques, I think that's really, one of the most important things that we want to preserve for them is that we are showing their brand and their pieces and their merchandise.
So how does Farfetch make out in this? How does it work for Farfetch?
Yeah. So, I mean, we are essentially connecting all of the luxury goods in the world with all of the luxury consumers in the world. And it's through this connection that we sort of engage our brands and our boutiques in a relationship, as well as our consumers. And we do, eventually the consumer knows at the end of their fulfillment, they know where the item is coming from, because we do want to make sure that they come to Farfetch for the amount of assortment and the breadth of choice that we can provide the consumer, but we also want to make sure that the consumer knows which boutique they purchased that jewelry or the jewelry from, the ring that they fell in love with on site.
So if I was to Google this pen, and it would show up all the places I could get this pen, including Farfetch.
Yes.
And then how would someone choose which place it would be purchased through? Like how does that happen?
I think what we are really concerned with is providing both the best experience for our brand partners and boutique partners, as well as the consumer. So it is about convenience, and it is about, there's an element of service that is important to a consumer, which is speed. And so if there is a customer in Hong Kong, and we want to connect that customer with the one item that they Googled, so that pen, to the closest boutique to that customer, so we can get it to them fastest.
And what is your average price point being sold today on Farfetch, from clothes to jewelry to fur to a pen?
Yeah, it really varies. And I think, if we focus on, I think the jewelry category is really interesting too, because I think we have 3 different types of jewelry consumers who choose to come to Farfetch to make their purchases. And I think a lot of them might be first-time jewelry buyers, but they love luxury, they love fashion, they come to Farfetch because of the assortment, and while they're on our site, they discover these amazing brands at easy-to-access price points. So we do have a lot of volume being driven in the 500 to 2,000 euro range, and that can look like a lot of different things. And that is sort of where we see the new customer growth coming from. Then we've got more of a discerning consumer sweet spot in terms of price point, which is between $5,000 to $20,000. And I think, if you probably spoke to someone in the industry 5 years ago, no one would have believed that a customer would place an order for €20,000 pair of earrings online, sight unseen. They do. They really do. And we actually see a lot of volume being driven in that price point as well. And then we do have some extraordinary purchases that are happening directly on our website or through a personal shopping team, which also gives a lot of our brand and boutique partners another way to connect with the most discerning consumers, where we've actually sold single items of jewelry in excess of €150,000 through our website, where someone's come to discover something, added to cart, and checked out.
And what is your return rate?
It's very low. So we have about a 20% return rate, which is actually quite healthy.
It is, because you have to look at it as it's been tried on in the store and maybe not purchased versus purchased and returned, because they have to try it on and it might just not work.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to move on to Paula. Yes. Paula. What do you think, in your opinion, is the best way to utilize trend forecasting on the purchasing floor?
On the purchasing floor, well, the purchasing floor, to me, it's kind of a result of trend forecasting, meaning that the forecasting comes from a strategy perspective, so comes ahead of the stage. I mean, ahead of the old stages. I think that on the floor, it's based on the capability of the buyer or the manager to know certain information about forecasting. So we are not for 3 months, like we were talking, it's not about trendy, but rather macro trends. So for instance, if we needed to talk about today, lightweight collectible pieces, lightweight layering pieces, diamond accent, genderless pieces are very strong in the floor right now. If you walk around this show right now, what's happening is everything is layering, everything asymmetry is very important right now, collections, earrings. Many collections are now sold by, for instance, earrings, by piece and not by pair. So, but this is not forecasting. For us, this is ahead of the game. Ahead of the game is forecast stands for we identified macro trends, which is not what is trendy. This is very important. So trendy versus trend. Trendy is in a niche of the market, an emerging niche of the market. So it's about one designer doing something, or a cool hunter, or a photographer spotting something. We do not spot. We actually are an observatory that monitors even these phenomena that could last 3 months, but to us it's not relevant for a campaign. So if Farfetch, this is where we are coming in, if Farfetch has to forecast and basically spend money on a marketing campaign, or Tiffany, we need to figure out what is the beacon strategy for Tiffany or Farfetch or Moda Operandi. So then the buyer, the Lauren of the curator, might identify one direction versus another one, and then say, well, you know what, studs earring or hoop earrings are hot. But for us, hoop earring is the consequence of a series of macro directions. So that's how we are relevant. So we are more from, let's say, from a specially strategic perspective, and what we do as a forecaster, we link final consumer needs to products. So very often a retailer, when they come here and they go, what should we buy? And the question is, who are you selling to? So you see, when we are looking at the market, we are looking at from a specific perspective. We categorize consumer profiling, we categorize market positioning, we categorize geographic markets. What's happening in the States might not be happening in Italy. What's happening in China is not happening in India. So this is what we do. Forecasting is basically analyzing information, organizing it, and create a strategy. That's what we are. That's what we do.
So technically, if you don't understand what trend forecasting is, don't buy trend. Easiest way to put it. Know your customer.
Yes.
Know your demographic, and then don't buy based on what's hot now if your store isn't getting delivery now. Right?
Basically, yes. I mean, it's like you knowing your customer is very important. I mean, it's like, see, when I see you or I see her, I mean, I see a customer and I see a certain language, so I know what to propose. So when a buyer is buying, say, what should I buy? Who are you selling to? When she was talking about the customer base, Farfetch, I'm a Farfetch client. Online, but also in the boutique. So Voga, which is in Arezzo, I buy a lot. I buy this from Voga and Farfetch, you know. But I'm a specific client. So this is what we do. We give culture to our basically audience about this kind of information. So in order to pick a hope, yeah, you can buy now, but it's also important the cycle of a trend, because sometimes, first of all, there are long cycle trends and short cycle trends. So there are certain, let's say, movies or a celebrity that might wear something that people might buy one particular pendant because one particular celeb or influencer is wearing it. But that's not a long cycle trend. Versus bags, for instance, bags right now are hot. And they will be hot for a while. I mean, I foresee, first of all, butterfly, they've been around for the last 10 years.
Bugs are always hot.
But now
nature is always in fashion.
But these seasons, you know, that, you know, spiders and kind of weird bugs, scarabs and bees, they're a little bit on the next level. So we're going to see more of that, and there are reasons, but we'll talk about tomorrow morning at 10.
Tomorrow morning at 10, you can really be forecasted in the trend forecasting with Paula DeLuca. I have been forecasted from Paula DeLuca for 20 years. Obviously, it's working. Come to her seminar tomorrow. The other thing that just really quickly with trend forecasting is, as Paula was saying, sometimes it takes seeing something more than one time to become something that is going to be a trend. I personally, and I don't know who else will agree with me, I don't buy into the influencers at all, because to me the influencers have taken the place of people like us, the people that actually buy jewelry and pay attention to the influencers are people who are taking up space for free. They're being sponsored by the brands. Yeah. They are being given clothing and jewelry that they can't afford and their followers cannot afford, but they like it, so they're given likes, and that's their form of currency. And to me, it's got to end soon. And to me, it's been like how we used to say, oh, well, the celebrity's wearing it, so we should wear it. Well, the celebrity's not buying it. The influencers aren't buying it. So if you are looking into using influencers to help your business, I think really reevaluate that. I think if you didn't do it 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it's at the end of itself, in my opinion. I'd like to ask the panel.
Honestly, Lawrence, I think, first of all, I think, you know, Farfetch might be more, but, you know, as an observer, I think you're right. Mm-hmm. I think what comes out, and I think is very relevant instead, is style, personal style. Like, you, to me, you know, not just because we are friends and you're here, of course, I observe people online and on Instagram and the way we all communicate. What comes out is people that have their own style are really making an impact. And style is about expressing your own self. I think this confidence that people can have by expressing their own self, whatever it is, it's really an influence. And I think it's more relevant. And I agree with you about the influencers. And I think digital culture is in the making. And I'm glad that, you know, being in this panel, you know, this kind of, you know, phenomenon is being, you know, raised. I think it's very interesting.
Alessia, hi.
Hi.
You and I have a lot in common. We're generational businesses. I'm fourth generation, you're second.
Yes.
Your father is your visionary. My father is my visionary. You are in a business now for 15 years with your dad?
Yes,
Okay.
15 years.
What do you see the future in your business being? Crivelli.
Yes, for
Yes.
Crivelli.
For Crivelli.
If I think my business in 10 years, I think we will be recognized in worldwide. So this is our vision. Not
How do you see that happening? How do you plan this vision?
We planned this vision during since 2 years. We started to think about a branding because usually we work with our retailers and we leave them free to sell what in the way they prefer. And now we understand that our final customer searched who is Crivelli. They try to understand who we are, and this is very good. So
who is Crivelli? What is the DNA of Crivelli?
my father is the DNA of Crivelli. Yes. My father is yes, he is the creative mind. Everything is around him. So he founded the company in 1970, so a long time. And he loved his work too much.
Too much?
Too much, yes. He loved his work.
And the next step for you, the forecasting for what you are going to create for this show, what will we see if we come to Crivelli's booth?
So,
what is your favorite piece that you've put out this year?
Pardon?
Your favorite collection that you put out this year?
in this moment, our butterfly.
Explain it.
We created some butterfly for 2 Vicenza show past, and I'm so sorry. I'm always
So it's a butterfly. So it's a bug. It's an insect. It is
Yes.
totally, as Paula said, on trend.
It should be
Yes.
a trend. Yes, yes.
It's going in the right direction.
Yes,
What do you like about it? What do you love about this butterfly?
I love the color and I love the position and the way you can feel in your fingers. You can dress it every time, and you can forget to have in your finger. So
That sounds
very-
beautiful.
very
Everybody should go
comfortable,
check
yes.
out Crivelli's butterfly.
Yes.
Would you
Come
want
to
your
us.
children to come into the business?
Sorry?
Would you want your children to come into the business?
no,
No.
no,
So honest.
no. I let they be.
That's
So
it?
That one, yes.
So finito la musica, second generation.
Yes, because I don't know.
Ah, like butterflies. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe my daughter. I don't know. But my guys, I think no.
So I asked you before, if you were a boy,
Yeah.
do you think your father and you would be more eye to eye? And you
No.
said no.
No, because he is. I think that if I was a boy, we are too much in competition. I'm a woman, so for him it's better.
Okay. So it's a good question to know, because my business partner is my brother, and I told you my father taught me the buying and my brother the finance, which was a good move.
This is fine.
So we have Alessio Boschi next to you, an Italian, a Roman, which we
Roman,
know
yeah.
because he was very late this morning. He was
Yeah.
very Roman, extremely Roman. He makes beautiful, beautiful creations. The first piece I ever saw that he did was the running of the horses in Siena. And it didn't look like that until you pulled a lever and then all the horses came out, and it's absolutely beautiful. Explain to us how you maintain doing historical pieces like that and maintaining relevancy in such a trendy world of jewelry.
Well, I'm extremely honored to be here today because I remember in the past when I was 19, 20, I came to Vicenza and some company even kicked me out of the stand because they said that designers...
Hey, were you late? Were you late?
You are learning
Somebody
something
that
else.
Designers are copyrights. Designers are copy machines. They come and they copy. And I found that very offensive, you know. Of course, there are different categories of people, different categories of works and ideologies, philosophy behind. But for me, designers means a creative, not an artist, because we are working in a business. So there is this distinction for me. We always have to keep in mind what our market customer wants. But I build up the idea of my little brand as everything should be unique, as our history, as our past. I work very well with Asia, and I'm super happy that I start, and I will hopefully will start strongly in America too. I believe in a multicultural world where influence, religions, they mix together, little bit like you can see in India if you want, where different connections are. But I am extremely Italian. You can also find it from my accent. I mean, no, not at all. It helps me a lot because Italy and our past generation have opened the door to us, new generations, and the newest as well. And I am extremely Italian because I believe that being in a country that holds 50% of the worldwide artistic heritage has helped us. Your generation, the past generation, have helped us to have an open door just by saying in the word that you are Italian, which is not totally fair for everybody. But I use that. I use my accent, I use my personality. Everything comes to the usage, especially when I design something. And for me, as you specified, being Roman means I put all the Roman heritage in our jewelry by the fact that one of the characteristics of Rome when you go to see the city is this Baroque fountain, you know, that this fantastic, stunning impression that you have either when you go to the Sistine Chapel or when you visit St. Peter, but also when you go from a small road and finally you have Fountain of Trevi in front of you by this crushing water and this beautiful statue. And then you know all the little stories, the stories that sometimes they are more important than the real big image. Like for example, in Fontana di Trevi, there is this little vase on the side that was built by the architect because he wanted to cover the view from this criticizing barber that he was on a side of the fountain meanwhile he was creating the thing. So he just put a vase. So if I would create something about Fontana di Trevi, I would probably create something with this vase and tell the stories. And are those stories that sometimes remain in our memories, not just the beauty, but all the little Italian drama, if you want to say like that, you know? So, yes, I think is generally...
Lauren, can I
Yes,
say
go ahead.
something?
Yes.
I want to say that I really admire Alessio because Alessio Boschi is a very internationally renowned designer, Italian designer. I don't know if all of you know him, but he's really a genius because he's not just designing, because many people want to be a designer, many students, but the man, you know, he came out of YED.
No, Accademia di Costume
Accademia di Costume Roma, and then he started working for Autore, very important in Australia, so he went to Autore. And then he sell one-of-a-kind pieces, extremely expensive pieces. I mean, these stories, I mean, yeah, he might be late, we might make jokes, but he's really is a brand on its own, and his storytelling is very relevant. So I would advise brands as well, you know, designers that they really want to succeed, to follow, you know, to spy Alessio Boschi online, because he might give you some leads on how to do it.
Thank you, wow, thank you, thank you.
Well
But
deserved.
I think, I also think that there are certain things about the new way of wearing jewelry. I think we should have more fun with jewelry, you know. So I am here not to create just beautiful jewelry, wearable jewelry, and I admire so much Crivelli as one of the column of the
And you work with your sister, if I recall.
Yes, yes.
I love a boy that works with his sister.
And but also I try to give something else that is more funny. So this element of surprise and the multifunctionality. So you can detach part of my jewelry and wear it, for example, from one long pair of earrings,
Yes,
you have
the
two
earrings,
of them. Or we have a necklace now in the window that is inspired by the Doge Palace of Venice, and with the architecture of the Venetian Gothic that can be, has all the elements, 28 elements that can be removed. Each one can become a pendant.
Incredible.
But out of these 28, there are also 3 pairs of earrings that you can detach and wear as earrings. So the engineering comes like that. And that is very Italian.
And you
really.
also work with ancient pieces and
Yes,
make
I
them
love
modern.
that. I love this. I have a great respect for art and for the ancient. And the ancient culture. In fact, I'm heartbroken for what happened with Syria. Personally, I had a lesson 2 days ago in a conversation, not a lesson, in a school in Milan where they called me to speak the whole day with the new generation of goldsmith, and there were 3 Syrian guys, and I became emotional with them because of what happened and what we did wrongly to them. And I would like to create a piece about Syria that, Lauren, you will see perhaps next year. Maybe Mr. Trump will not be so happy about.
No
but
politics, no politics.
But we don't.
I don't want to be in a bad mood.
Yes. But yes, there is also a message sometimes in some of our pieces. For example, we have the Pisa Tower, which is a ring that turns and is done with, I would say, some of the best technique in jewelry that we can. No? So the movement, and then there is a surprise, and inside the gallery, which is something very French, very Italian, very Swiss, no? The lining work inside the ring, for me is a pretext to tell a story into the story. So all these little fabulous gossips that we can, or imagining that you see the Pisa Tower from the cathedral, and then you open the ring and there is a little Pisa Tower. But this Pisa Tower also open, and inside there is a message written in English, but with Gothic typo, Gothic character, and the message say, trust you, never fall, like the Pisa Tower will never fall, believe in yourself. And this is really what I found sometime is the kick, not in every piece, but sometime these ideas are what I believe touch our hearts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to ask Marco a question. I promise not to ask you about your boxers or briefs, but the, although everybody does want to know.
Oh, well.
Marco, trade shows are the magic platform to experience the market situation, the consumer's attitudes, the change in distribution channels, and innovation in new production technologies. How is Vicenzoro expressing all of that to you? You notice I read this so I wouldn't get in trouble.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Lauren. Sorry, everyone. I'm the most boring character in this panel, I guess. Well, first of all, just an introduction. Modern distribution now changed a lot. So while you're running a shop or an online shop or a retail shop, you really have your own style, your own taste, as you do with your shop. So anyone now to sell to customers, to consumers, needs to find his own storytelling. So your windows, your boutique has to communicate, to transmit something different, because now with the web everyone can access all the information. So a good buyer running a retail shop or whatever needs to find his own way, his own taste, his own selection. He needs to find, at the end, his own trends. So, because Vicenzoro is designed around the concept of giving services to buyers, we think is very important, or probably the most important thing we do here is providing to all the operators and to all buyers an inspiration for their shops, for their online platform, for their chains, for their distribution, because they have to come here and and find their own way to succeed, to be different, to have their own unique selling proposition. And it's exactly what Alessia and Alessia and you all doing. And I think this is the way Vicenzoro helps operators to succeed in their business. And that's why Vicenzoro now is pushing so much to get together such relevant people in these regards, and having the design room, because the design room is something where actually you get inspired by people like Alessio or all the others we have there, as well as going through all our pavilions. Every corner should be an inspiration. This is our ultimate mission: give inspiration to buyers to provide them a better selection for their shops. But at the end, is on the hands of the retailer, of the buyers to make their own selection. One important thing we're doing since many years is, of course, collaborating, supporting in a way the team of Paola De Luca with Trendvision, because we think, supporting someone that is so scientifically supporting the forecasting of trends is important for all the industry. So we think it's a mission of every trade fair, of every show, to support the industry in its evolution. And Trendvision, I think, is a very good tool for helping all buyers to find their own style, their own selection and stuff. So Vicenzoro is very happy to welcome all the designers, every new idea, every inspiration for the world of consumers. And then is, of course, up to you. But your success is our success.
Very well said. Does anyone have any questions for the panel?
I do have one question.
Yeah. Okay.
As a businesswoman in jewelry and also in trends, how do you check?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
How do you check your trends and how you put in your business?
How do I check my...
How do you check? How do you spot your trends? How do you use your trends in your business?
How do I'm a different animal, because I go from like clothing fashion weeks first, and I look at necklines, hemlines, wrists. I look at the fashion, and then I choose jewelry, because to me, even though the jewelry is what is generational, and the jewelry is what is going to be forever, people buy their clothing first. No matter how many times we all try to tell them, buy the jewelry first, they don't. How many times people come and say, I'm getting married, I now need a necklace, and it's like 2 weeks before the wedding, and they've done everything first, and you're like, why would you do it that way? And the jewelry is the afterthought and the last amount of the budget, and it should be the most amount of the budget. But it's always, the cake was more expensive than the necklace that they're going to wear. So I look at it the way a consumer would. I also look at it as how to merchandise my store, because even though you guys as designers do the greatest jobs in the world, and you are so, you make beautiful things, it doesn't always work with what people are going to be putting in their closets. And I want to be able to have the most wearable, sellable, beautiful jewelry, and the most progressive. So I will look at, I just came from New York, London, and a little bit of Milan. And in the grand scheme of things, I wish that this show was after Paris, because I really should be at Dolce & Gabbana, and I really shouldn't be going to Paris, and then come and look at all of the jewelry. Because it's not that you guys are going to change your designs really quickly, but what I choose for my shops and how I merchandise my shops or contact my clients and say, oh, by the way. So there was a big micro trend happening on all the runways again, which I thought we were over and done with, which was the asymmetrical ear. And, ear cuffs going all the way up the ear again, and that was happening, and of course chokers happening to draw attention to the necks, and Victorian is happening with the shoulders. So, is that going to change what you guys have made? No, but is it going to change what I bring into the store? Absolutely. It's going to be all attention to the hand. And then in the handbag realm right now, everything is almost like how we did chatelains years and years ago. So I want to know who is going to make a chatelain again. Who is going to make necklace handbags? Because all over Erdem's runway, he had mini handbags as necklaces, and a lot of that is happening. The waist, the neck are being used again as adorned, not typical necklaces. They're being like, you should look at the runway shows. So that's how that's why I'm so into fashion, and that's how I buy for my stores. And it has, you can show me like this is my newest piece, but if it's not going to work with what is going on for the closet, I'm not going to be able to sell it because my clients are really that high fashion. And I'm that high fashion, and otherwise I'm bored. Honestly, I don't care how many bells and whistles you have, I'm bored.
And I want to ask you something else. As I like to represent somehow this category of designers, that they are strange creatures, but they don't have any protection whatsoever. I like to have a teaching from you as a designer. What are the most challenging or difficult things you found by working with designers? Not by company of not by jewelry
because they're artists.
Yes.
I grew up with artists. I find them the most incredible people to be around. So I think when someone thinks they're an artist and they're really just someone who is a manufacturer, that's the most challenging.
Yes.
When they're just saying, I'm making something that's hot right now and I am really not creative, and you have to let them think that they're the most since peanut butter and jelly, because you're respectful, but they suck and they haven't done anything good in 20 years, and you wish they just go back into their DNA and look at what they were. That's the most challenging thing. And then especially when you've had such a great long-term relationship with them and you want to keep them, but you're really suffering because you're giving them showcase space, and you're not selling anything, and both of you are just, it's like a marriage with no love, what do? You bring a lover, you bring another lover, you get fat because you're trying to fill a void. I mean, it's just horrible,
Lore, can I ask you a question? I want to pick your brain now, because you see, before when we had the talk, you said, we have to talk to the audience. You represent a high-end jeweler.
Yes.
I
hope.
No, you are. I mean, I'm just saying, because I want to translate this knowledge for also people that don't have your type of clientele. Because you said, I'm fourth generation, you have high fashion client, you can sell certain pieces, and for you, what's happening in the runways is very relevant. But even you said, let's talk about the States, or even Italy, but Italy is a little bit more edgy, that but the average client, they're not fashion.
I also have the
exactly,
average.
They don't care, they will never wear what you're wearing, or what I'm wearing, what we're wearing, and they're very conservative. And that's the people, because most of our audience and the manufacturers, and also the average designers, they don't have the privilege of selling to the people that you are able to sell.
But he asked me my
No, but I like, if you had, but your question is great. Now, if you had to say something, give a tip, guide these people, this is, because you are a retailer, and in a way you can be a direction, an inspiration for people that they sell a little lower.
So, we do a big bridal business, a very big bridal business. So diamond studs, diamond rings, whatever it is you're selling, sell it the most beautifully that you can, the most passionately you can, and believe in everything you're selling. Whether it is the, because my favorite people to take care of is that person that has saved so long and so hard for that one gift, that first gift, that birthday gift, that anniversary gift, that one time of year client that I grew up with. When I was going to work with my dad in the 70s, and it was the single store, the mom and pop, and they came in and it was no self-purchasing females. I miss that time when it was no self-purchasers, because it was, you got jewelry for important events and it meant something, instead of, oh, I'm buying myself this and I'm buying myself this and it doesn't mean anything anymore. Jewelry meant so much, and I feel like now it's just an accessory. And unfortunately, it's great for business, but the heart of it is missing.
Yes. And
also, I grew up, we didn't see my dad from Thanksgiving until Christmas. And we're Jewish, we didn't even see him for Hanukkah. I mean, if Hanukkah wasn't on Christmas Day, we celebrated Hanukkah on Christmas Day. So it was like, he worked that hard to make our living from that period of time. And then, you had Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. But now it's like, yeah, maybe you get a small push at Christmas time, but everybody buys themselves something almost every day. I mean, how many people here buy themselves something almost every day? Almost everybody I know goes online and browses, or goes, and even the pharmacy, you get a basket and you're like, oh, this, that. Things are not as important as they were when we were young. So to me, the greatest experience today in jewelry is still when you get that first time customer buying, that first time special gift. And it's still the best. So the love present, the present that really comes from the heart. I don't care what level you're selling, that's the present. That's the gift. I hope that answered your question.
You're great. I think you have to.
Any questions?
No, we have to wrap up.
Can you have a microphone?
David Bruff from Jewellery Outlook. A question for all the panel. How will the shift of economic power to the east of the world, notably to China and to India, in the coming years affect jewellery design, tastes and trends, and also the fact that Chinese and Indian people are traveling so widely in the world, and there are big diasporas all around the world of these wealthy people from a large population country. How is it going to affect the big picture of jewellery design trends going forward, and tastes?
I think now the way everything is so accessible online, that the tastes are so international all the time. I mean, Jamie, you see it.
Yeah, I think I think for us, what we are seeing and what we know is going to start happening over the next few years is the average luxury consumer's age range is going to shift significantly, especially if we start talking about second generation wealth and Gen Z, and what's happening with that consumer who is, by nature, they grew up with cell phones in their hands, so they are very digitally savvy, and for them it's a native way of shopping versus, I think, going into stores and sort of understanding a heritage brand because that's what they grew up with. I think they're growing up with a different perspective. And it's interesting though, we still see the Eastern consumer spending both natively online when they're at home in China or in India, but more so I think right now in China. And especially when they travel, the things that they're purchasing at home look a little bit different than when they are traveling. And one of the reasons why they travel is to go into your stores and to see your expert curation of all the things that you do so well and the things that they love, and show them things that maybe they're not used to seeing online when they're at home.
And there was a question over here. I think we had time for one more.
Also,
Yes.
I have something else to add, because, I don't know, hello? Yes. My biggest market is China. I would never believe a few years ago when I had my colleague, my friends, that they were designing economical things. Crazy, you design this one of a kind, nobody gonna buy that. All bankrupt, and they come today to me to found something really, really unique. The perception that we may have about Japanese, Chinese, Indian less is a little bit different, but Chinese having a little ring is completely wrong. They want something completely stunning because they are still one of the countries that loves to go to the parties. We don't have this anymore in Italy. We don't buy things that they are really showing to go in the street, because either we get robbed, either we get taxated by our Guardia di Finanza. but in China is a way. There is this still party things. Another thing is, because it's my biggest market, then I have to look at what the customer wants. One of the things more important is that mostly of my unique high-level breakfast in Jaipur and Peacock Dance collection, which they are the collection which they are more high-end, mounting sapphire, ruby, emerald, are all made with anneated stones, because China wants anneated stones with certificate. Now I had an experience a few weeks ago. I went to a very important supplier in a very important possible customer in Middle East, and as some of you in the trends may know, spinel are very high. At the moment are as high, as important as sapphires. Yeah. So they told me like, no, we don't buy semi-precious stones. Like, and that I was shocked, because really it's different.
I have to cut you off. I'm so sorry that they're telling us to shut it down. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you enjoyed our panel. Come back again next year.
Can I ask you a picture together?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us at the opening ceremony at 12 noon at the Welcome Lounge Hall. Thank you. Signore e signori, vi aspettiamo alla opening ceremony alle 12 nella Welcome Lounge Hall. Grazie.